Good evening and welcome to Mindful Live 283. Are we at now? Yeah, 283. I hope I have the right number written on the YouTube over there. But welcome to Mindful Live 283. I'm your co-host Nathan Springer. The host is tonight having a rest. You know, her birthday was yesterday and she partied out the night, and well, she's still sleeping. So the host isn't here. I am doing it solo this evening. I hope I would be capable of holding everyone's attention, although I don't have the natural skill sets of the usual host. But nonetheless, I am Nathan Springer. I am here. It is the 7th of August, a whole week already gone in August. Imagine that. What am I saying? August? September. Wow, a whole week already gone in September. I'm still in last month apparently. Yes, Candy Cane, you're right. September. I was wrong. September. The host and I share the same birthday. Oh, big birthday. Because they'll spend $900 back. Right. Now, we were talking about, you know, local competition and local stuff because someone was bringing it to my attention that there's a brand. What's the brand? Spray something. Some kind of spray something. Spray Grung, right? Spray Grung, that's $1,000 for a bag or some kind of ridiculous something like that, and it's all the vibe now. Apparently, it's the new trend. I don't know about things like that. I think children going to school with $1,000 bag is asking for trouble. It's unwise to the highest degree, but I mean, you could choose to give away your money how you choose to give away your money. And but we were talking about, you know, encouraging local manufacturing, and someone was saying regularly you see that it's not encouraged, although it's possible. And when you look at the rhetoric from the government, the words that the government says, it's often encouraged. They say that they want more manufacturing, they want more local people in that entrepreneurial side. As I was talking about NEDCO, the National Entrepreneurship Development Company, they're out there giving grants, or supposedly giving lots of grants to encourage especially young people to enter this manufacturing and entrepreneurship field. So it is there. There are people who want this field expanded. But part of the problem, when you actually look at the rubber meeting the road, the reality of it is that regularly you see that the problem arises that the ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago is just not there. We were speaking about this previously for this week already. The ease of doing business is not there. So it's not even a matter of government grants really and truly, because as I regularly say, if you have a successful business idea, you're not supposed to require government grants. You're not supposed to need the government to give you money for your successful business to work. The business would work all on its own. You need the government to get out of your way. Candy Cane says, but do the people actually receive the grants? It takes a while to process. Yes, some people do receive some grants. There are grants given out by the government. I was seeing recently, where was it in Napa, there was a program where they celebrated several of their entrepreneurs who went out there and successfully got their grants, 20,000 grants to do some kind of young entrepreneurship something. So yeah, they get some of the grants. But yes, Scafty, the grants are not the problem, as I just said. The ease of doing business is the problem. Everything surrounding doing business. Getting permits to do this, get the regulations in place, getting your imports ready, getting your foreign exchange so that you have a reliable supply of foreign exchange to pay to your foreign suppliers. And that's a problem you hear oftentimes if you talk to business people. Some business people, especially in the last 3, 4, 5 years, were complaining that it's not even that their business isn't working. They're making money, but they're making money in TT dollars. They need to be able to change those TT dollars to US dollars to go out into the international market and buy their raw products from international suppliers. Most businesses would require some raw products from outside. We were talking about, for example, those textile things. If I want to make a bag, let's say I want to make a Mindful bag and sell it for $1,000. I hope you all buy it. All the people who buying the spray ground bag out there, when Mindful drop our $1,000 bag, you know, I hope anyway. If I decide I want to make $1,000 bag to sell locally, the reality is I will not be able to get everything I need from Trinidad and Tobago. We do not make all of those raw materials, or at least not in the sufficient quantities for a massive manufacturing product. So I need to get some things from foreign. But the problem now is to buy from foreign, they don't care to get your blue, red, green, purple, gray TT dollars, or what color is the 50? Orange? They don't care for any of those. They're looking for something more along that green tinge, the US dollar. Maybe until BRICS comes in with their gold-backed currency, who knows? But as it stands, US dollar is the main thing. If you cannot exchange your TT dollars for enough US dollars to go and buy what you need from your international suppliers, then you cannot bring in the raw material you need to manufacture what you're manufacturing. And many people have been complaining about that in Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, recently there was a bit of a hubbub created when the Prime Minister, who was it? One of those journalists from TV6, I believe, Urvashi, I think it was Miss Urvashi, and she, in the local government election, in the aftermath of that, she was speaking to the Prime Minister and talking about NTA, that NTA received something like 30,000 votes in Diego Martin, and the Prime Minister was taken aback by that and said, are those votes in Guyanese currency or something like that? And the Guyanese government took offense to this, as the Guyanese government is wont to do in recent times. And one of the points they were making is that regularly Trinidadian business people are using Guyana to source their foreign currency. Their forex is coming from Guyana. And they were showing that in a sense to show the difficulties in the Trinidadian market. Some businesses are going through Guyana to get that forex. Blessings from the island where cement nearly ran out because of Cabo Star breakdown. Yeah, I heard that. And I saw a post. Talking about that Tobagonians one day want to separate and have nothing to do with Trinidadians or Trinidad, and then the next day they were complaining that they're running out of supplies because their connection to Trinidad was cut. I mean, there is some irony in that. I paid $200 for a bag of cement today. That was the last one again. Partner, you really needed that cement? Like, did you need that cement? 200? No. $200 is what? 4 bags of cement on a regular? Not happening. I will use mud and gobar. $200 for a bag of cement. No. Where are the cows in Tobago? Are there cows in Tobago? Gobar. It works. Mix it with mud. And like hardware people could care less. Island knife. Well, yeah, I mean the hardware is out there to make money. I don't blame the hardware, because possibly if I had a hardware in Tobago and I had 20 remaining sacks of cement, you might have been lucky you got it for $200. Maybe if I had 20 sacks, I had the last 20 bags of cement on the Isle of Tobago, I was auctioning them. $200? No. $200? Do I hear 250? Do I hear 250? 250? Do I hear 250? Yes, 250 to the guy in the corner. Do I hear 275? 275? Anyone? 275? Anyone going 275? Yes, a 270 and a 300. 300 to the man in the red jersey. Anyone going over? But I have a pallet, 150 a bag, Mr. Perfect. Are you out in Tobago with a pallet? Listen, wait. If I take a van, a normal Hilux You could take a 10 bags. You could take a 10 bags. I cover up a 10 bags on a Hilux and drive over to Tobago. Pull up off the port. Right there in downtown Scarborough. Yeah, Ronnie. First you have to get a ticket to come. Good night, Ronnie. So wait, tickets that hard to get on the boat? I don't know. I don't know the present situation. I know somebody went to Tobago and came back yesterday. They went and came back yesterday. Oh, right now ferry tickets for vehicle selling as supply and demand can't even get for, wow. Yikes. Or for vehicle. Right. So I could come across, but I can't come across with a vehicle. So if I take a pirogue from Toku, I'm telling you all, the Toku to Tobago ferry service is going to make, you know. I know some people down Toku. I'd have to talk to my Toku contacts. How many bags of cement are we dealing with on a boat? A 50 or 75 engine? How many bags of cement a pirogue engine could push? We allow him to sit low in the water. I actually know a contractor who bringing his supplies through a barge. I don't doubt it. A hire truck, you get a flatbed, run up to Toku, drop it on a boat out on Toku beach there. Half hour later, I'm going to dock in Buku. I think I'll dock in Buku, you know, go around the top end there. Dock in Buku, a boatload of cement. Hello Trini, so first time on your channel, what are you about? By the way, Toku is up, not down. My apologies about the up and down. Hello Natasha John. I think that was the Galleon's passage was for Toku to Tobago. That cement won't be good by the time you reach. No, sir. I am wrapping it in plastic, of course. You think I don't know my cement? I'm wrapping the cement in plastic and jumping across from Toku. At $200 a bag, I think it might be worth it. Interesting. That's unfortunate though, because things like that have a ripple effect. If bags of cement are going at that price, then basically no residential construction is going to be going on. Do we only sell TCL still? Well, they ensured that, you know, Rockhard was on the market dropping TCL's price, giving us a race to the bottom basically. And y'all and your dearly loved PNM government ensured that ended swiftly. You know, who could have competition to the status quo under PNM government? But look how fast it is happening. Just 2 weeks without the Cabo Star, cost price landed maybe $65 plus. But yeah, we do only sell TCL at the moment, I believe. 200. But yeah, as I was saying, $200 a bag has a trickle-down effect. It has a trickle-down effect. No residential person is building their home with $200 bags of cement. That is not happening. Eco is TCL, brother. Eco is TCL, just so you know. And that means any small level contractor who would have been doing residential work has to pause. And the vast majority of construction work has some level of cement in it. You're going to need cement for something eventually if you're doing construction. Do you know there's no stag on the island at this time? Wow! An atrocity truly. Well, maybe that's another business opportunity. Someone needs to open a brewery on Tobago. You open a local brewery and you make your own little small mini brewery batches there. I see the host has awakened. Yeah, you open your brewery, you make your mini batches, and you go about your business. Sell it. That's not a bad idea, actually, a brewery. Yeah, you open your brewery and you go 1% allowing that the amount of laws against that. Exactly, Mr. Perfect. That's what we were talking about at the very beginning. In Trinidad and Tobago, the problem isn't the business ideas or things like that. It's that ease of doing business is very low. So if you get the idea to open a brewery in Tobago and you go looking online and you go on Alibaba and you see your brewery equipment and it's only, wow, I could bring this in for $50,000. I could do this. This seems doable to me. All right. Then you go and you recognize, oh no, if I need to bring this in, I wouldn't get it cleared on the port. And you go and you try to figure out what needs to happen to get it cleared on the port, and they won't tell you. They ensure that it won't be possible for you. Did she go for a makeup touch-up? No. She briefly awoke and then went right back. Yeah, I don't think you could start a brewery just so. Wide Leather says. Mr. Perfect says the haves and the have-nots and the cannots. It's more like the haves and the cannots. I like that one. Not the have-nots, the cannots. And the government not giving small business US dollars to buy their goods, only the big boys. We were talking about that too, where Guyana was making the point that Trinidad might be talking about some of their economics, but Trinidadian businessmen are going over to Guyana to source forex. Trinidad businessmen going to Guyana to get their foreign exchange. Imagine that. But that's one of the reasons regularly, that kind of the difference between the haves and the cannots is one of the reasons I regularly say that when people ask for government in something, you don't want that. Because regularly what you notice happening is the government comes in and actually inhibits people from actually doing some of those things. There are people who would be willing to do it, people who would be willing to invest, people who would be willing to risk it, but then the government gets in there very often and actually stops people from doing this. Guyana has now passed us in their developments. That's not true, Mr. Perfect. That's not even close to true. If you speak to people who visit Guyana regularly, the development is apace rapidly in Guyana, but it's not even close yet to the development of Trinidad and Tobago. You go, if you drop out from the moment you land in the airplane in the airport in Guyana and you look around out of the airplane windows, you could see they are not yet at our development level. And this isn't meant as an insult to Guyana. It's just the reality. They are not yet at that level, but they are moving swiftly apace, and they have intentions to do just that. The infrastructure is developing, and they are thinking and pushing for more development. As Sir says, yes, it does take time. And Guyana is in a bit of a unique and difficult position in certain things. You see, to get development, to get infrastructure done, you need to get people to do it. Guyana is developing the infrastructure, yes, but it's still plenty bush, yes. Do you think we really attain a common currency? No, and I don't want it. But yeah, the Guyanese are in a unique and difficult position. They have the resources, yes, but you understand, in order to get the things done, you have to hire people to do it. You have to get the contractors, you have to get the business people. And there are many unscrupulous people out there, including Trinidadians. Calco went over there and they are in some trouble right now. The Guyanese seem to be wanting to blacklist Calco. And it's not only that contracting company they have had that complaint with. Many contractors, many service providers that go over there are going over with the intention to maximize profits and treat the Guyanese as the backward bush people. And many Guyanese are very cognizant of this fact, and they're trying their best to balance it. They're trying their best to balance it. They need the infrastructure done. Isn't Guyana underpopulated for its size? Yes, Guyana is humongous and the population is small. Yes. But underpopulated is a strange word. So, in order to get that work done, they need to hire people that are able to do the work. But then, who do they hire to do it? Do they hire Trinidadian contractors who might go over there and do shoddy work, and then their road is having potholes within a year's time like some of ours? Jerry says, yes, blacklisting is the best way to bring some level of a fair play with work and money being paid out. But the thing is, even after you blacklist them, bear in mind, a blacklisting usually only comes after you already hired them, paid them the money, and they did bad work. So yes, you may blacklist them, but the bad work is already done. And then better work, maybe, maybe not. Okay, you blacklist them if they don't do good work, and you keep going like that. There are many, many, many companies throughout the world, and it's difficult to ascertain which ones are going to give you exactly what you're paying for. That's the position Guyana is in, and they have the money. They are getting the money. And people know that. People smell the money sharks smell the proverbial blood in the water in Guyana, and they are circling for it. It's hard to hire people with no background and experience in those billion-dollar projects. Exactly. And bear in mind, even for the Guyanese authorities, for the Guyanese government, they're going from a budget of, I don't know the Guyanese budget, so I'm just calling numbers here. Let's say they were going from a budget of like $1 billion US, and now that budget might be quintupled, $5 billion, and going up and going up and going up. And spending more money isn't necessarily just... It's easy to spend more money, but it isn't easy to spend more money efficiently. The more money you spend, generally speaking, it's much more easy to spend it inefficiently. Not hearing much about Kusals. Are they out of business? No, they most certainly are not. Kusals is still very much in business, doing business all about the Caribbean. Will we ever receive developed status? For years, we are developing so much for economic diversification. Well, developed status is a political term. So I don't know how much I care for receiving developed status, but I care for us developing better. And there are several things very difficult in that development. It has to do some with the very nature of our history. We were a colony. As a colony, we were developed as a monoculture. As one industry. That's what colonies did. We didn't have to have everything coming out of Trinidad, because Trinidad was an offshoot of the British Empire. Britain had Australia for prison, Trinidad for sugar, Grenada, Barbados, Guyana. They had lots of offshoots, so they could have had specialization in each offshoot. And then now, when we got independence, now we're trying to change from just that one size fits all. We're trying to change the mindset of the people also, because people coming from this colonist mindset have the mindset that someone out there has to take care of everything for you. They don't have the self-sufficiency mindset. That's something I find. The descendants of the colonized people do not have self-sufficiency as a mindset. They have it as a narrative. They talk about it, but they don't have it as a mindset. Self-sufficiency says whatever I can produce is what I will survive on. I don't need to beg anyone for anything else. No one owes me anything else. The colonized don't typically have that mindset. They have a more entitlement mindset, and also we have that one industry mindset. So we put a lot of eggs in our oil basket, but also I think that one industry mindset is what helps us have such a enormous public service also, because we are accustomed with back then it would have been the British Crown, and the crown appointees would have basically hired everyone in the country. Everyone who came to Trinidad before 1962 basically came with the intention of working for the British Crown in some kind of form. And now, after independence, a lot of people who remained, a lot of us Trinis, seem to still have that mindset. I am going to work for the government. The government have to find a work for me. The government had to educate my child. The government had to feed me. The government had to pay for me when I sick. The government had to pay for me when I old. The government had to build a house for me. The government had we have that mindset, and that is a colonized person's mindset. That is the mindset of the colonized. When we were a colony of Britain, everything had to come from Britain. Hi, Ronnie. Everything had to come from Britain. Britain had to take care of us. We are no longer a colony. It's not supposed to be still that take care of us mindset. Unfortunately, a lot of Trinis still have this. A lot of Trinis still have this. And I think it's detrimental to us, really and truly. It's detrimental. We don't have our economy at the level it should be because of that. We don't kick a fuss when the PNM makes ease of doing business more difficult. When the PNM decreases the ease of doing business, a lot of people don't kick a fuss because they don't care for that. They don't care to be entrepreneurial with anything. I want to get in as a clerk 1 and try to become a permanent secretary, or however high I could reach, and retire from the government service. That's a lot of people's dreams, getting to government service. So they don't care about forex and the taxes on imports and what going on at the port and customs. They don't care about that because they don't care to do business because they work for the government, and the government is glad for that. You keep working for us. You will own nothing and you will be happy. You will live in an HDC house, work in a government job, be seen after by the government. Everything is attached to the government. And while they endorse that for you, on their part, they own businesses, their family owns businesses, their friends owns property and businesses out there. So they are the owners and you are just the consumer. Perfect. Try to become a what? They're good with just being there and getting a raise every 3 years, of course. I think because politicians aren't businessmen, they can't run the country as a business. Correct. They aren't businessmen, and they don't choose businessmen as politicians because politicians and business people often have opposite varying intentions and goals for things. You see, like you're saying there, Ronnie, as a politician, if I could promise 100,000 people that I'm going to keep them employed in the public service, I'm going to give them a work and give them sure money. They don't have to go out into the economy, the free market, and try to figure out what service they could offer anyone else. I am giving you a job and paying you money. I am more likely to get the votes from that 100,000 people. And then I promise them that I'm going to give them a raise. On what basis? Are they doing more work? No, they are not doing more work. I'm just going to give you a raise for giving you a raise sake. Where does the raise come from? Where does the raise come from? Well, the raise comes from the tax-paying citizens. So the people that are actually doing the business in the country, they are the ones paying the money to the government, and that government takes that money from those payers and pays it out to the people that they promise to give a work and give them a pay increase every three years. A pay increase that they will shut down the whole country for. So the public service will shut down the private sector that is paying the taxes to pay their salaries because they demand a raise for no more work. You see, in the private sector, you don't demand a raise just like that. You earn a raise by providing something more. You give a better service, you give an improved product, something. You have to innovate some way to get a raise like that. You don't just demand a raise. But we have that going on in the public sector. And then we wonder why inflation is on a steady rise. You see, if we have a public sector that demands a raise for no increased service, nothing added more to the economy, but they're getting a raise. You do understand what that does is it's not actually going to give them a raise, it's going to decrease the value of the money in the country. That's what that is going to do. Because the value that they put out into the value that they put out into the society is not increasing. Just the number value of the money you give to them is increasing. So then what that is going to obviously do is decrease the value of money. If I give you $4,000 per month to sit down and type one document per day, I am not saying this is what public servants do. I'm drawing a simple example. If I give you $4,000 per month to sit and type one document per day, and then next year you demand a raise for that, now you want $4,500 per month to still sit and type that one document per day. If I give you that raise, it's not really like I'm giving you $500 more. I am actually decreasing the worth of $4,500 to represent the worth of one document per day. Don't think about it with the number value. Think about it as relating directly to each other. $4,000 per month is equal to one document per day. If I increase that number, 4,000, and still remain at the one document per day, I am decreasing the value of the 4,000. Now 4,500 is worth one document per day. And that, how, with or without the raise, inflation is still occurring. You're not understanding what I'm saying. The inflation is a trickle down from that. A trickle down directly from that. Directly. Because, alright, look at this. The 4,000 for one document typed per day. What that did previously is that would have been, as a landlord, I would charge you half of that salary as rent, because that's what I do. Half of the salary goes for rent. Half of one document per day is what rent is worth in the country. If you get a $500 increase, what is actually going to happen is I as the landlord, I am not going to allow you to get $500 increase while I stay at $2,000 decrease. I am going to continue collecting half of your salary for rent. Half of $4,500 isn't going to remain at $2,000. So now rent is going to be $2,250. Lunch. Let's look at lunch not as a direct number. Look at it as a percentage of your salary. And every time your salary rises, it doesn't change the percentage of your salary that each thing costs. So how we reverse this? How we reverse this is allowing the free market to take a hold. That's how we reverse this. Allowing some people's jobs to be worth what it is actually worth. That's very difficult to do when the government has as much control in Trinidad as they do. When the government determines what the majority of workers in Trinidad are paid, it's very difficult for the free market to balance these things, because the government demands that you pay them more. The minimum wage is an inflation insurer. We have unions clamoring, raise the minimum wage to $20. That's going to raise inflation again. If, let's look at it, when the minimum wage was $9, a whole wheat slice loaf from Kiss was $9. When the minimum wage was $12, a whole wheat slice loaf from Kiss was $12. When the minimum wage was $15, a whole wheat slice loaf, well, actually I don't think it was 15, it raised straight to $17.50. As the minimum wage rose to $17.50, the slice loaf from Kiss rose to $17.50. Kiss is paying workers also. if you increase the salary that they have to pay to their lowest level worker, they're just going to increase the amount you pay for their product. It doesn't work like this. And you know the people that suffer the most with these things? It's not actually the business people. The people that suffer the most are people on fixed salaries and fixed incomes. A pensioner who gets that 3,000, is it, or 3,005, how much ever it is now, that doesn't increase with inflation. They can't demand an increase in that. That remains the same. If rent is going up, the price of a Kiss slice loaf is going up, the price of a drink is going up, their money cannot go up. Fixed income money doesn't go up. I checked the Heritage Fund online yesterday, and I think we have about 1 year budget only in savings. Not surprising. Not surprising. Inflation is the economy catching its tail and creating that cycle. It's creating that cycle. You look, I like US examples regularly because they keep a lot of account and statistics of those things. You look at the United States, and as soon as they got governments that began spending more, inflation went up in the United States. For a long time, inflation was relatively low and stagnant in the United States. Inflation wasn't as enormous as many other countries because the United States, for a long time in many of the states, didn't have a large level of government involvement, government hiring people, government paying people, government determining this, government setting minimum wage, government. Centralized control. As soon as they got that, inflation in the United States now is, the more bailouts the government prints, the more money they give. Why would you want to stay working minimum wage? Not for me. I don't even pay my staff minimum wage. You know, Mr. Perfect, that's kind of the evidence to show that minimum wage is not necessary. Most employers don't pay their staff minimum wage anyway. How many of you have employees that you're paying minimum wage? Most people don't pay employees minimum wage. So minimum wage isn't necessary for you to get a good salary. The only thing minimum wage is doing is ruining the job opportunities for people with zero experience and zero knowledge. Without a minimum wage, you could have had people hired to do next to nothing and receive next to nothing pay. And here's the thing. If the individual is okay with that, why are you involved? People want to work McDonald's and buy a Hilux. Well, you see, some of that happens because of the government involvement in work too. The government makes labor inflated. They inflate the price of labor to some extent. So, when I am working KFC and receiving $3,500 a month, and I know how hard I am working, but then I'm looking at the government worker who is working less hard than me, and they have enough salary to go in the car company and take out a Vezel. They're driving a Vezel off of their salary. And I know I work harder. Isn't it on me now to demand from my employer that you must pay me more? Because I'm looking at what this country says. This country says that typing one document per day is enough to drive a Vezel. And I am here slaving over hot oil, and I can't even get a good bike. So I must have a higher salary. That's the government pay inflating the cost of labor. Why you don't start a local libertarian movement? I would love to ride leather, and hopefully that's exactly what I'm doing as I speak here. Hopefully that's what I am doing as I speak here. More people join into the more libertarian side of things. Get the government out of our business. Yo, Bill, go in the house. What's going on, bro? I hear cement is $200 over on the island, bro. Things bleak. But the government don't want change. Of course they don't want change. That's why when people, many times when people talk about this politician or that politician or that politician, because what you're asking there, you have to understand what you're asking. You're asking that people who get the best benefit from the system as it stands, that they change the system to get less benefit. That's a hard ask from people. From humans, from Homo sapiens, that's a hard ask. Yes, Candy Cane, we always have to pay the government taxes. Good night, Paul Duncan. We always pay the government taxes. Whether the government is involved or not, we must pay the taxes to the government. Such is life. Yeah, if we do legal business. I mean, there is illegal business where you don't have to pay taxes, but I mean, there are other problems associated with that. If you wanna risk those issues, you could go the no tax route. But once you want your business to run above board, what going on, Ronnie?
Good night.
Good night.
About that KFC thing you talk about, and honestly, a person who works in KFC could possibly make a higher salary than some public servants, because you could change your hours, you could work overtime, you could work harder, right? That is something that I wish the public service had a little overtime and a little not overtime, because we know they have overtime. We know how they just do that overtime. But I'm talking about in terms of the public service, the only way for the public service to work good. Sorry, good night to everybody. I don't know if I said that. The only way. Oh, something went wrong. Are they hearing me?
I am hearing you clearly.
Oh, okay. Something went wrong on my phone. The only way it can work well is if you change public servants to like either incentive based in terms of like task payment. So when you complete your task, then we'll pay you. So it's like contractors. If you have a contract, like if you're doing a house or whatever, you'll get somebody money and then you'll get the rest when the job is done. But public servants don't have that, so it's like whether you do the job or you don't do the job, half when you do the job.
You see, the thing is, Ronnie, the public service doesn't fail because people don't know how to make it work better. It's designed that way. The public service is a vote machine for politicians, basically. And they know if they tamper with the public service has a union that's going to clamor and say that all of us are going to vote you out the next election. So they know that they have to threaten. If you do anything that demands more work for money from the public service, the union is going to complain. Anything like that. So how are you going to implement that? It's not incent, and that's why the many people who like the more free market capitalist sense of things. Good night, Tony the Ambassador. They never want the government to get in the business of employing people, because it's a self-defeating cycle. It's a negative feedback loop that it's extremely hard to get out of. The government pays these people vote for the government, and as these people vote for the government continues to pay them more because of that, and it's a cycle like that. Is the government going to do anything to decrease the possibility of getting the votes from those very same people? Why would they do something like that? For what purpose?
how much persons employed? And when Tobago is a really high, ridiculously high number, but in Trinidad, what's the number like?
I'm not sure. I knew it.
I don't think it.
I knew it, but I'm not
it's
sure.
like that high in Trinidad.
It is.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's high compared to everywhere else, probably in the world, but it's not like real high. It's like less than 30% or something like that.
I'm trying to find out here.
Oh, when I work KFC, I work on the airport, which was 24 hours. I work graveyard shift, so that was time and a half starting off, and I worked at least 90 hours a week, at least. It was good.
46,000 public servants.
That's not that much. But then we know, I guess they don't take into account Tiantec, TSTT, WASA, CAL, or any of those other public servants that really consider themselves public servants.
Just now trying to find some other numbers.
And 90 hours a week was like, it was when I was in school, during vacation. So, you know, you don't have nothing else to do, so you're working 10 in the night to like 10 in the morning sometimes. And then when you had holidays, you're working 24 hours. It was crazy.
Yeah. 46,000 public servants, and I believe I was looking for the labor force of Trinidad, as in how many people are of that kind of working age, and our labor force was something like 670,000, but our labor force participation is something like 55%, so the number of people that would be working out of that number would be like 300 and something thousand, so let's round it, 370,000, and of the 370,000 people, 46,000 are public servants.
Which is not bad.
It's not
terrible.
It's not bad, but I believe the government is the largest employer of people in the country, which gives it a unique position. It gives it a pole position to determine the labor market for the entire country. Because what they do with their 46,000 employees, and I don't know if, as you said, they count police, etc. inside of that. So police is an next 10,000, for example. I don't know if they're counting them also. But what they do with their employees is going to have, yes, some of those are contracted, but some are permanent candy. Is going to have an effect on the entire market. It is, without a doubt. How the largest employer treats their employees is going to trickle down to the rest. And then when the largest employer can actually determine the labor policy for the entire country, police is 6,500 and they're clamoring for it to be at the moment. Well, I saw that 7,000 number, 6,500 to 7,000, but then I saw the police commissioner talking something about a 10,000 number, so I don't know if that's with the additional SRP and administration staff and all of that. So, I'm not sure. But either way, 46,000 is a large number of employees. I'd be fine if that dropped to probably 400.
What? Well, I would be okay with it if they closed down most of their things. So like TSTT, keep Tiantec, please, I beg. I don't want Tiantec go private. Only I can't. Probably WASA. I don't have a problem with privatizing WASA. WASA does get the most nasty end of that wastewater service. WASA does get that. If nobody don't pay the WASA bill.
True.
People look back and like, WASA does have people owing them tens of thousands of dollars. And WASA rate is like $100 and something dollars a quarter or something like that. So you can see that people really do take advantage of WASAs because they build their lines poorly, so they can't cut people. And that's their fault.
Well, it is, yes, yes, yes. But it would have been, and again, the problem with government running things. Bear in mind, the people who are running WASA now would be appointed, a lot of them, by the PNM administration. They would have been appointed some since 2015. But before 2015, it would have had a whole other team running it with different goals, a different mission, a different directive. And every 5 years, that team could change. Not based on profitability or efficiency or any kind of useful metric like that, just based on politics.
I think that's probably one of the biggest setbacks that we have in Trinidad and Tobago is this 5-year mentality. Every single 5 years or 10 years, projects that start, stop.
Well, that's because the government, that's when the government plays as big a role as it does. When the government plays as big a role as it does, then it really matters what everything the government does is how the economy moves. Water for all. So I could remember before 2000, I don't know how many of you all remember this one. There was a song playing, I think the UNC was playing this song. There'll be water for all in the year 2000. I remember that song since the 90s. WASA promising in the year 2000 there'll be water for all since the 90s. Well, I have water. To be fair, I have water. Me. But I know a lot of don't. And one of the things we do, in the year 2000 there'll be water for all. Boy, a real nice kind of ballad tune. But of course, Ariel, that's how you live. You don't leave that to WASA's hands. That's what I keep telling people. If you leave it up to the government, is salt, you know. Trying to leave things up to the government, you're in a salty position there. I am seeing some people now coming to that understanding, looking back in hindsight at some of the actions of the COVID pandemic. I remember there was a solid waste management company out there, man, that during the vaccination hype, they took on that nonsense hype that was being pushed by the government. And I remember I made a video back then, and in the live I was talking about this. I was saying, employers, I hope you understand that you don't take that political nonsense talk that some of our local politicians was pushing from their international political associates about, you know, vaccine mandates and force. Do not play mad with that. And some of them played mad, and some of them are still paying workers who aren't working. You sent home workers out of place over vaccine mandates, and the industrial court in Trinidad still has them paying them to this day. And I don't think that they're ever going to escape that, because the industrial court was saying since back then, you cannot do this. And some private businesses took that government chain up. And I see WHO and some of those international who's talking about this pandemic business again. I don't know if this is a run-up to the US election with this pandemic business trying to do what they did with the 2020 election over there. I don't care. Let's not go through that again. Understand that a lot of the effects of the pandemic had nothing to do with the virus itself. It had to do with the reaction that many governments took based on the virus. Do not take those reactions at face value. The information, many people aren't paying attention to a lot of it because it's already in the past. Whatever happened. People forgetting about this. The masks, the information on the masks coming out showing that, in fact, more likely they did worse to your health than benefited. All the masks, even the N95 masks, yet still they forced a lot of people to wear them.
It was so uncomfortable. You couldn't breathe in them thing.
Bear that in mind. A lot of the vaccines, they are now saying, I believe now they're saying the newest variant, if you're vaccinated with the old, but they're talking about the mRNA Pfizer vaccines. If you're vaccinated with the old Pfizer vaccines, I believe you're actually more at risk of contracting the latest strains. Do not take politicians at face value. Do not take them caring for your life and health and at face value. No, 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 no. Don't. They're gearing up again to come at me, and Nathan Paul Duncan says, well, I am gearing up too to say no. It was Project Pride, Water for All by 2000, Nigel Charles, thank you, Brian. I know I'm not the only one remembering these things. I know I'm not alone in this memory. There was supposed to be Water for All since 2000. That's 24 years ago. Somebody could have been born after that. And they're 23, 24 now. And still no Water for All. Didn't Trump say let me bleach your bloodstream to kill the virus? You see, that's the fake news, bro. That's the fake news. Trump actually was talking about a study that they were doing in a lab. He made the statement actually next to the scientists that were talking about, they weren't using the word bleach, but they were basically talking about irradiating the blood to do just that very same thing. It was an experimental study, and he spoke about that, and the media took that and ran with it. Trump recommending we drink bleach. That's not what the man said. It's not what the man said. Everything, if you ever heard a bad thing about Trump, try to go back to the start and figure out if it's true. Because 99% of the bad things were either exaggerated or lied about. Kamala did say sunlight will kill it, and she was right. She was right. It does not spread in high levels of sunlight. And then the governments did this. They banned you from going to the beach. They banned you from going outdoors and playing sports and locked you inside, where the majority of spread was inside of homes, where there wasn't that sunlight and sanitation. I believe there was no recorded COVID-19 spread on a beach anywhere in the entire world.
Well, I mean, what did I say? You guys on the beach, nobody would know.
Actually, you would know. You forgot that they were tracing these things. That's how they know. They traced it. They traced it. There were events at beaches that created no super spreader effect. But anytime there was an event indoors, you traced it and it created super spreader effects. It's not something that's impossible to know, Ronnie. You could actually figure out where people contracted the virus from, because you have knowledge of the incubation period, how long it takes for the symptoms to show. Then you could tell when you get the symptoms. You could tell who was infected around you at the time when you were exposed. Those things could be checked. Surprisingly, how quickly they vaccinated almost 3 billion people. Well, it's amazing what some force and coercion can do. But the sunlight will kill it business was also exaggerated. It's not like you run out in the sunlight and and all the virus dies, because the virus is inside your body. The sunlight will kill it works for in terms of if someone is coughing and it's out there just floating around in the air, it's not like it's going to remain floating around in the air outside. It's going to die.
Not in this sunlight. That COVID dead.
Dead. And if you listen to what WHO is talking even now about the resurgence of COVID-19 that they're worried about, they're talking about it in winter. They're talking about the winter rise of the COVID in the temperate countries, as winter is closing in, as we're closing in on that autumn and winter period into the northern hemisphere. They're talking about COVID-19 resurgences at that period. I remember meditating before taking vaccines. I wonder if those 3 years of lockdown made a dent in the Earth's pollution levels? I presume it did. Its pollution would have dropped. Remember, there were lots of videos and posts about the earth is healing and the world is healing, and they show you animals back in this place and plants growing back here, and how quiet this place is, etc., etc. So yeah, there was some down effect in the pollution, I would assume, but there would have been some increase in some other areas. What's that, Ronnie?
Yeah, but Nathan, every year to winter, these people coming back with the same thing, because it's the same conversation that the winter. Oh, we are looking at a rise in COVID cases. Winter 2021, a rise in COVID cases. Oh gosh, we ready? You know, we okay. We know by now. But it will spread in winter.
These people are power hungry. They are power hungry. They love to be in other. They love to control other people. That's the reality. No one goes into global governance without having an interest in controlling the world. Like, think about that for a moment. Who are the people that go into positions where they could make decisions to control the world? The people who like controlling what other people do. If you don't care to control what other people do, that's not a job you care for. I don't care to make the whole world jump and say Simon says or Nathan says. So I don't care to go into the UN or WHO high positions and do anything. If I go in there, it's to shut it down. But the people that go into those positions, they like controlling human action around the world. So obviously they're going to do things to control human behavior around the world. And when you looked at some of the demands during the lockdowns, they were very Simon Says-y. Like, why? What's the logical purpose? Because we say so. Because we have the authority. All those control freaks through the world, they got excited during the pandemic, and they are excited to get it back again. Very excited. They love it. They're wishing that before the talk about the pandemic resurgence, many people were worried because they were saying it that what we need to do for the global climate disaster is treat it the same way we treated the pandemic. Climate change is the new global pandemic. I don't know how many of you heard those words being uttered throughout the earlier parts of this year and last year. It's nearly like some of those same control freaky people wanted to use the idea of climate change to do some of the same things. We're going to tell you what to do. You poop when we say. You eat what we say. You live how we say. I don't like that idea. And to me, that idea, the people who espouse that idea are the people who most often end up with a million dead after their reign. It's the people who most often end up with that. The people who try to control what you eat are the people most likely to kill you. The people who tell you do as you see fit are the people least likely to kill you.
But Nathan, to me, it seems more like not much people really care for this climate change thing. If you look at in these first world countries, you know, them just be the ones that having the problem. It seems like much people not getting onto this climate change bandwagon, especially because the people who protest in it are so
annoying and sickening. And you're right, and I think that's why they did not go through that climate change as the new pandemic business, because people aren't buying it. And there are many reasons I think people aren't buying it. One, people are not buying it because of who is selling it. Now, you could convince me that the climate is changing because the climate is always changing. You could convince me that what humans are doing is having an effect on it because humans do a lot. I don't doubt those things. But it's just strange that the same people that are talking about climate change, all of the solutions they have for climate change are communism. All the solutions for climate change just so happen to be the same things you always wanted in your communist dream. That's strange to me. All of the communists all of a sudden are climate change believers, and the solution to climate change is communism. Well, I'm sorry, no. I'm not buying that one. I could see you selling it I don't buy it. Sorry, no. Another reason is that many of the people that are complaining about the apocalyptic realities of climate change, the world, well, they said that we're going to be underwater by this year, but we aren't. But the people that are going to rise, the sea level is going to rise by 5 feet in the next 10 years or how much ever, they are buying beachfront property. Obama bought beachfront property. This Kerry bought beachfront property. All of them have beachfront property, and then they're telling us that no, the sea level is going to rise and engulf all of the beaches. Why are you buying beachfront property? I don't believe what these people say. I don't believe what these people say. I want to follow the money. And insurance adjusters are very serious about not losing money. If the climate is saying and signaling that it's going to all go haywire and the sea levels are going to rise in the next 5-10 years and engulf all these properties, how are all these billionaires getting their beachfront properties insured still? You think these insurance adjusters, these people who did what's that field, actuarial science in UE, which is one of the hardest, most impossible nonsense to do. Those actuaries in insurance that take into account all the different possibilities, they're insuring that and have no idea. I'm not buying that. Another reason people won't buy this, the people that tell you that you need to ride a bike and buy an electric car and buy a little buggy and stop traveling around the world, decrease air transport. They're traveling in a fleet of 20 private jets just to go into their conference. One flight on the private jet is enough emissions for your car for 10 years. But no, they're telling you need to stop driving that car. Yes. Okay. And then buy these electric vehicles and this alternative energy. But okay, how come all of y'all that are saying the world is going to crash in fossil fuels have invested so heavily in the alternative energies? And then you're trying to demand it from us. Bill Gates keeps telling us that we're not supposed to eat meat, it's bad for the environment. And then he's the one experimenting with fake meat all about the place. That seems a bit conflicted, doesn't it? Something seems like it doesn't quite add up. So, yeah, people aren't buying it. People aren't buying what they're selling. It's just not. It's just not
I don't understand. Probably you could break it down for me. The whole cows are bad for the environment. A cow fat does destroy the ozone layer thing. Yet you're telling me not to eat beef. But wouldn't I be helping the environment if I kill the cow?
Well, the reality is the number of cows we have in the world is because we eat beef. If we didn't eat beef, there'd be less demand for cow. And it's not an animal lovers thing, because there'll be less demand for cows and the number of cows in the world will vastly reduce. That's basically what they're saying. They want less cows in the world, so let's eat less beef and there'll be less cows. So less cow fats and cow belches to add methane into... but I'm not on that tree.
But if we just stop, like right now, today, everybody stop with beef, it will still have the amount of cows that it have. So, yeah, no. Give us that beef.
I agree. Yes, Bill Gates is doing a lot of freaky experiments. I believe he had some experiments with a mosquito, where mosquitoes are carrying some unique vaccine. I don't trust these people. And he had some kind of chip they were experimenting with for contraception, a contraceptive chip. A lot of those billionaires are obsessed with population numbers and population control. They are obsessed with it, wanting less people on the earth. So they're always interested in women's reproductive rights. They're always interested in less babies being born. That's their main goal. The green revolution is the answer. No thanks. Hey!
What's the green revolution then?
It's what people say it is, I guess. They said they can only lessen climate change. It's beyond stopping it. Well, the climate changes. The climate is in flux all the time. There are hot periods and cold periods on the earth. Naturally, the earth goes through those cycles. Naturally. Even the climate, even people that talk about climate change regularly, they admit that what they're saying basically is that we are speeding up some of those natural processes in the Earth's environment. And for example, the idea is that if the Earth continues on this global warming trend, what's going to happen is more ice caps are going to melt, the waters are going to rise, and it's going to actually trigger, very likely, a global cooling, which is going to trigger an ice age. So yeah, there's the global warming, the rising of the sea levels, but then that would trigger another cooling event, which is going to trigger an ice age. And so what they're worried about isn't just the warming, but the eventual triggering of an ice age and all of that and all of that and all of that. So that's part of the reason. He's experimenting in creating a corn and cassava that grows anywhere, cool countries too. Yeah, he's experimenting a lot. I don't trust the man, to be very honest with you. I do not trust the individual. And he seems to be a bit of a perv because of some of those links to the guy that didn't kill himself in a cell. So yeah, even more reason to not trust that man. They are so obsessed but wouldn't start by getting rid of themselves. Lead by example, and maybe. Yeah, you'd notice that, Pernell Brewster. You'd notice that. A lot of them are obsessed with less people, but they wouldn't start with themselves, one. And two, almost all of them have families. Almost all of them, Bill Gates has children, more than one.
Does he have grandchildren though?
I don't know. I don't know if his children are that age yet. I think they could be like
big children.
Big children in our time, and those that make children. 20-year-olds don't make children in our time, especially wealthy 20-year-olds.
That's true.
The coming of Christ might be the solution. Yeah. The green revolution can sustain the standard of living we enjoy now. You'll have to live with less. The green revolution cannot. And the way you understand that a lot of these people are actually just Marxists, they're communists, they want to have centralized control of the economy. They don't want people to be free. They are afraid, they are deathly afraid of what you normal peasants are going to do if you are able to make your own decisions out there. They are deathly afraid of your freedom. And one of the ways you could understand this is because there are options for cheaper energy. Nuclear. And all of the environmentalists, well, not all, but a large number of the environmentalists in that lane of thinking hate nuclear. They hate it. Why? For the same reason. And if you read their literature, like the thing with a lot of these Marxists and communists, they don't do these things by guess. They have literature, because a lot of them develop this out of the universities. You could literally read what they are doing. They tell you what they're doing. They tell you why they're doing it. And they don't want nuclear because they're afraid nuclear is going to, you know, there's language to, there's their unique language to say it, but one of the general gist is that nuclear is going to centralize power of the power of the economy. Remember, the Marxist idea is to return the means of production to the people. They want the people to control it. They don't want individuals to control it. The people meaning politicians, really and truly, but nonetheless. And if you have nuclear power, it's going to end up with whoever owns the nuclear plant controls the energy for billions of people, possibly. Because nuclear plants can produce potentially produce an enormous amount of energy forever. They don't want that. Because energy is freedom. It's the same thing like cars. Gas cars give a lot more freedom than electric cars. That fossil fuel energy, where you could jump in your car, drive to anywhere you want. You could put in a keg of gasoline in your trunk and drive wherever you want. Electricity requires a grid. And then if they have renewable electricity, that requires a massive complex grid of wind turbines offshore, solar panels in the mountains, and the government controls all of those. When you need to plug in, the government could tell you no. And this has happened in California. California is like the leading edge of that kind of leftist, Marxist, progressive worldview. And they have passed a bill to, I believe, ban the sale of new gas cars very soon, electric only. And then while they were pushing that bill, they had a serious overheating summer. That was last summer, I believe, where the ACs were running 24/7. The electricity was being overly pulled on, and the state declared that you cannot charge your car. You understand what that means? At some point in time, you have no gas car. All you have is your electric car. You go out today, plug in, and your car brings up an instruction. According to state mandate bill so and so and so, you have hereby been prohibited from accessing this charging station. Please contact the nearest station for queries. You doubt the government will do things like that? You doubt a government will do things like that? Of course they will. If they get the power, that is of course what they will do. So that's why I think, and that's why many of those people, they don't actually want solutions to climate change. They want communism. This brings me back to the movie I Am Robot. They want to take away your gas stove too. Yes, they do. Yes, as well as New York 2035 is supposed to be totally banned from imports. I think personally, if the United States lasts that long, they're going to receive a serious pushback on a lot of those things. And what might actually be scarier in the long run might be the pushback. In the long run, the pushback might eventually be the scarier thing.
Well, I mean, once they do the right thing and they get, well, if they have succeeded in probably getting Trump off the ballot next year, then they really might make it. But hopefully, if they get him in, he might be able to pull something back.
You know how many states, I believe 4 or 5 states are already trying to take him off of the ballot. Now, what you have to understand, Wide Leather, you say Texas and Florida are not taking that. Maybe not. But if one of the super liberal states are able to get him off the ballot on that state, he cannot mathematically win the election.
He can't. No.
That's what they're aiming. And you see, they're aiming because their 14th Amendment, I believe, has a clause in it that someone could be prohibited from running for office if they held office before and were engaged in insurrection against the government. That's literally why, since the very day January 6th occurred, they have been calling it an insurrection. While anybody who looked at that saw a weird little riot that happens every day in the United States for various reasons. There's always some group rioting in the United States. January 6th was no different than any. In fact, it was one of the least violent of those riots. But ever since that day, since the very day, they have been calling it an insurrection and using that literal word. The media, if you probably take a check of the number of times the media has said the word insurrection since January 6th to this year, you may get a couple million times. The reason is that now, and this is the problem when politics is tied into the media, especially like in the US. Where I remember when in 2020, when we had a lot of our liberal local people buying into the US election and they were making their comments and stuff, and someone that was really hating Trump in Trinidad, they were saying they wish the Trinidad media used to treat our politicians like the US media treated Trump. And I was like, you all don't know what you're asking for. We do not want a politicized media like that. Our media already is relatively politicized, as everywhere is, but not close to the level of them. When you have a media and a political party working together, these are the things you have. So they could plot this, see that insurrection word out there. So now, because it's within the last week, they started to push those legal challenges. They start to mount the legal challenges where they see this president engaged in an insurrection, so he should be taken off the ballot. I think, though, even if they succeed in that, like if you're watching what is going on right now, every time they indict the man, his popularity increases. Because more and more people are looking at this and seeing this is not making sense. It's like if Dr. Rowley came into governance and arrested when Mrs. Prasad Bisesa lost in 2020, she took the EBC to court. The UNC fought the EBC in court, I think, over a year. Over an extension they did because of rain and all of that and all of that and all of that. And the UNC went on saying the election was stolen too. If in Trinidad you had Dr. Rowley direct his attorney general to start arresting Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Anram Logan, Dr. Rudal Munilal, and several high-profile UNC members for questioning the election. That's insane. Especially when you look and see, like, going back to the US example, both sides have always done this. Every single thing that they are attempting to prosecute Mr. Trump for, the other political side does the same thing, and oftentimes to a worse degree. So anyway, many people are noticing these things. So his popularity keeps increasing with each new added indictment. And I think if they attempt to take him off of the ballot with these things, they are setting up themselves for a civil war in the United States. The very reason their constitution has a Second Amendment is so that the government isn't able to just take over on a whim. That's the reason they put into their constitution, partially. So what do you think is going to happen? If the person that most gun owners wanted to vote for is, in their view, unfairly taken off of the ballot, are they going to view it as an election? No. They're going to see that they are under a dictatorship. And what comes next? I like how Trump explains to the public openly how rich people avoid taxes. That's why the public liked him. That's why they liked him. Because he was saying that these people are trying to tell me, like, they're trying to insult Trump that he doesn't pay his taxes. And the point he made is, yes, I don't pay my tax. I don't pay those taxes. No billionaire pays those taxes. And we don't pay those taxes because that politician standing next to me there wrote the law in such a way to make it so that I don't have to pay the taxes. Then they come and get money donated from me for that. And then they go to you and mama guy you and tell you, the billionaires not paying the taxes. Get vexed with the billionaires and vote for me again, so that I could continue doing the same thing. That's what Trump said. So his view was much more free market oriented, that, you know what? Let's just cut the taxes themselves. Nobody pays those taxes. And the reason we need those taxes in the first place is because of government spending.
Correct. I agree. We should definitely adopt this two president. But the thing about the two president thing that won't work here is, in America they do party. Their parties, right? They basically hold true
internal elections, primaries,
the same dreams and stuff like that. They go along the same policies. In Trinidad and Tobago, we don't really have that kind of system. You understand? So you have to hope that the person that's coming after the person who you think is a good person would hold the same values, I guess, and run the country the same way that you want it to be run. But it don't really make sense in Trinidad and Tobago to have that two-term thing. And I don't think any prime minister in this country ever do more than 2 terms.
I agree. But I could understand the benefit of the executive presidency in itself. But for us to do that, I think we need to change a lot of things around our system. So we could have an executive president where we vote for the president by himself separate, and then we'd have to have a separate Senate and a separate Congress or Parliament with the members of Parliament, the representatives, say, area, where you could vote for each one of those separately. So, like, part of the problem we have right now is we vote one vote, and that one vote is for a representative for the area, which determines who gets to select who is the senator and who is the prime minister. I could understand that not actually being ideal, where we could basically vote for the prime minister or the person in charge. We vote for that president separately, and that person goes in and brings their own staff and runs the country executive, the country executive area, what is within the executive field. They run that as they see fit. But then we also vote for the representatives, as in the members of parliament, who go into, well, the US has it as their Congress, and they get to make individual laws. They get to pass the budgets, etc. So the president in his executive, he could select his ministers, or in the United States they have their secretaries, etc. He gets to select all of those, and they get to do their thing. But the laws of the country are not made by those same people. They are made by a different group that you get to vote for as representatives for your area. And that helps because it's nearly with a local government thinking to some extent, but not local government. These are representatives to do lawmaking, but you don't have to select the full leader of your country when you're selecting the representative for your area. So I could believe that Mr. Rowley might be a better leader, fully executive, than Kamala Persad-Bissessar. So I might vote for Dr. Rowley as the executive president. But because of my region, I live in Couva North, I might think that the views of my district may better be represented by whoever the UNC put up. Maybe I vote for the UNC member, for the member of Congress or the member of Parliament, as we have here, the representative. And then separate to the executive, separate from the Congress, there's a Senate that you also get to vote for. There are fewer senators. So if it were like if it was Trinidad, maybe let's say you have 41 Congress people, members of Parliament, you have maybe 10 senators or 12, fewer senators. And these are supposed to be the older, wiser people of the country, and they're supposed to be in a position that isn't as easily tweaked and changed. So what has to pass through the members of Parliament, the members of Congress, has to be approved by that older, the Council of Elders. The Senate is supposed to be the Council of Elders. That's the position in the country that they are supposed to take. So, for example, in the United States, originally, I believe the senators were not voted for. The senators were selected, I think, by their local governments, if I remember correctly, if I remember my US civics correctly, and they changed it to voting for the senators. I could actually agree with the senators being selected even. So we have let's say we create an executive system where we have that executive leader, we have a separate member representative system, and then the Senate, where we could select a vote for the Senate separately, or we could select that local government. So when you vote in local government, in local governance, your aldermen for, let's say, the TPRC, the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation, the aldermen there, that council selects 2 senators or 1 senator from that corporation. And to me, you see, the reason for these methods, what they were intending to do with these methods is separate power, separate different aspects of power so that they are able to counterbalance each other. And then separate all of this, you have the judicial system with the Supreme Court at the top in the United States. So you have all of these separate branches that are able to counterbalance each other. So the president could make a decision and the Congress is against the decision. And the thing is, the president and the members of Congress could be in the same party, but they don't agree on the decision. Because let's say we have Dr. Rowley as the executive prime minister, but we have a PNM representative for Point Fortin. And Dr. Rowley being from West Moorings and the PNM base being mostly the East-West corridor, he may have a bias against that kind of view. And he may have a view of doing some things that may help mostly the East-West corridor or West Moorings region. A Point Fortin representative who is not hinged to the prime minister or president in his cabinet, they're separate. The president does not have control over the Congress. They're separate. Even though they may belong to the same party, they may have different interests. And now, while the prime minister, president, executive president may choose one thing, when it reaches to Congress, the Congress may say, nah, we change that. So that's the benefit of an executive president system. Now, the bicameral parliamentary system that we have, I think the reason it doesn't work that well in Trinidad and Tobago is it was meant for Britain. In a country with the history and culture that Britain has, that system works well. They have the figurehead leader, the king, queen, who it was before. In our case, we have that ceremonial president. And you're supposed to be able to have your patriotic side. You're supposed to, at festivals, at marches, at parades, etc., you could have that adulation for your patriotic side given to the ceremonial leader, who you don't have to hate. You don't have to dislike this person, because all they do is give awards and smile and kiss babies and attend functions. So you are able to place the ceremonial patriotic leadership of your country into a glass case, as it were. And then they have their bicameral system with their House of Lords, the Prime Minister and his cabinet in there. But they have so many parties in there that it's like a constant argument inside of their parliament. Instead of the Prime Minister having supreme control over the ceremonial president, remember, our Prime Minister controls the president and controls his cabinet and selects the Senate. While in England, they could have a separate area where their representatives could argue amongst each other, and the Prime Minister has to try to balance support, because he has to have support from a coalition of parties, because there are just so many different parties. He has to have a coalition of support, so he can't just do what he wants to do. And for example, a prime minister like Dr. Rowley would have found it very difficult to function in a parliamentary system like theirs. That paternalistic daddy way he speaks isn't going to fly when you have to get a lot of people to support you to remain as prime minister. That's why the prime minister in England regularly changes. And then their House of Lords, their Senate, doesn't remain under the control of the Prime Minister. When you have people in there who have titles and land holdings going back 300, 400, 500, 600 years, the Prime Minister could be what he wants to be. When Lord XYZ, who controls an entire small town, says he is not going along with what you say in the House of Lords, tough. But we don't have that in Trinidad and Tobago. We took their system without the culture and history that went along with it. And now we basically have the Prime Minister comes in and is a supreme leader, and we have a supreme leader that flip-flops from opposite tribes. So the tribalism keeps going extreme and the supreme leader leads. Britain doesn't have tribal politics like TNT either. They do, but their tribes are based on different things. Alright. Alright, Ronnie. You know it's closing time. Closing time.
I didn't even see the birthday girl or nothing. She was here tonight?
She wake up a few times, but went quickly back to bed.
Okay.
Any closing statements?
No, I really wanted the first to talk about the thing I had Tanya, but I come late. I was watching that show. It was really good. But that's about it. Everybody have a good night. I'll try to make it tomorrow. And probably you could check this stuff and tell you.
I will.
You know? Play a Wasa song now. Sorry, a Waterfall song.
Just now, let me see if I find. I wouldn't doubt that might actually be on YouTube, you know.
I'm sure it will be. Everything is on YouTube. Everything is on the internet. Ladies, you heard that?
What do you mean by ladies? You heard that?
I was talking to the ladies.
I want to know what you mean. I didn't say I'm a lady. I
do identify as a lady?
I have a daughter that's going to be a lady. I am married to a lady. I want to know.
Everything is on the internet. That's all.
I want to know what that means. Hey, as I said, I remember the a hard UNC song I find was the Boy Boy. You all remember the Boy Boy tune? The formula.
Which one?
I'll play it for you all. A UNC tune.
I like elections for the music, boy. I find it has been nice.
Everybody know you want the formula. All the youths them a big vote for ya. Because them bad man, we can't vote them when the rising sunrise and burn up them. I said on the red for the youths them and the camera I represent. Alright, and when she represent, she affects every box, every payment. Alright, I said I chatted on the red and see when see everything now and then. Alright, you will see forever, dog, when you vote them because it's just rising sun.
I listen in the tune, girl. I ain't hearing you there. This tune hard.
You will see forever, dog, when you put your finger by the rising sun. Everybody come out and support. And everybody have to play them. Because them bad man, we can't vote them when the rising sunrise and burn up them. I said that chatty for the red and for the use them and the camera I represent. Alright, and when she represent, she affects every box, every payment. I said that chatty for the red and street when see everything nice man. We had a party crime, and say they go back set down to supply.
Alright, people. On that note, I ain't find the Waterfall song. I had to do a little deep digging to find that. But that song is like 25 plus years old. So, people, that's all I have for now. Now pull up the tune. Big tune. Alright, I hope you're educated, informed, and entertained. This was the Mindful Live. I am your host, Nathan Springer. I will be here again tomorrow evening around that 9 p.m. time. If you're interested, be sure to join us tomorrow evening for the next Mindful Live. Hit that like button if you are looking at us on YouTube. Then make sure you hit that like button before you leave. Drop a comment. You can look at the entire live on repeat over on YouTube. Nathan Springer over there on YouTube. Head over and be sure to subscribe. I will see you guys. I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you stay well. Peace out. Laters. Bye.